Can we be real?
Hecklers.
Can we be real?
Real.
A couple years ago, Paul said to me, he said, I was at NAMAD.
Oh, he's gonna tell this story.
He said, I was at NAMAD, and you'll never believe what happened. He said, I ran into a dude. He works for TrueCar. All right, so
Dude actually ran into me.
he ran into him. He said he works for TrueCar. I've been a dealer for 12 years, and I said, Paul, you ran into someone from TrueCar? He said, no, you don't understand. This Matt Jones guy, he's got a different vibe
This is
about
a
him.
very, very true story.
He's got a whole thing about him. I was like, I gotta meet this Matt Jones guy. So I think it was Digital Dealer last year, first time that I met you in person. And you too, you have a different vibe. And I've started to meet so many of the people in the TrueCar family, and you just had a vibe that's turning into something that's really being contagious in the industry. When you think about the industry and the automotive industry and your partnership with dealers, what is kind of the guiding principle right now for you and for the organization?
So for, straight up, the first thing we have to think about is be aware of what TrueCar was.
Hold it close. He's trying to make you louder.
And in comparison to who we are now. And it's a completely different entity. You can be you can be an all-star and then fall off, or you can be a not star and then become an all-star. And I don't know that I necessarily loved who TrueCar was when I sold cars. But I got into the business, I worked for a company called Edmunds, learned a little bit more about the vendor space, learned how people were evolving, and when the opportunity presented itself to get to TrueCar, I was like, word, I can do this, because I understand why people have so much animosity to this company, because I had it as well as a salesperson. It is the truth. It wasn't always an environment that allowed people to be profitable. It wasn't always a fun environment. But as I learned more about who TrueCar was now, I actually began to appreciate the company more and said, actually, this is something I can be down with. And I know this sounds like a little bit of spin, but my background is I sold cars in Southern California in a pretty heavy hitter market. And I went to go visit a friend of mine who runs a Chevy store. He used to be my GM. I walked in there to get my car fixed. This is prior to me working at TrueCar. And he cusses me out when I walk into his office. And I'm like, whoa, what's up with all the heat? I thought we were boys. And he says, I can't believe you work for them TrueCar people. And I was like, bro, I don't. I worked at Edmunds at the time. And he's like, okay. And I said, tell me about this. Why are you feeling this way? And he's like, it changed our business model. And he said, well, but what I really dislike is that I have to pay TrueCar 10 grand a month and I hate them. And I said, well, that's pretty powerful. You pay these people 10 grand a month and you hate them. There is something valuable about the company. Now we just got to get you to figure out how to get past the hate. And that's what we've been doing for the past couple of years, realizing that the old business model isn't appropriate for now. And the people who work there are not the same people who are there now. And since I'm sitting up on the stage and I'm looking at this audience, I got to shout out somebody. I don't see her, but I heard her voice earlier. Where is
She's way up there. She's way up there.
Oh, God.
She wanted the advantageous point.
She was like, I can throw popcorn at him from here.
So here's the point about a person like this who will remain nameless, is that when you're dealing with these multi-million, multi-billion-dollar national companies, you need a human to be out there representing who your ethos actually is, right? Because if you're not dealing with my company, you don't know who we are. Right. You know who we were, you know the legacy, you know the reputation, but you don't know what's happening in 2022, 2023, 2020, and it's a lot different now. So when I heard about this, I'm like, this is actually completely in line with who we are. As opposed to creating this confrontational environment, we want to partner. We don't have time now because I'm looking at the timer, but one of the people that you interviewed had a background that was very, very, very similar to mine. And when I think about all of the friends and families whose lives have materially changed because of this business, right? There's no way that you cannot be on board with this if you are actually about the business, if you're about the people of the business and the change of the business.
Sit down here, you start preaching, okay?
How many people literally in this room know someone, or you maybe, whose life was materially changed through the car business? Right?
That's right.
That is the truth of what we're trying to show everyone else. And people call it propaganda or not propaganda. You'll see when you see the show, there's just a lot of humanity in this show, and we know there's a lot of humanity in this business. And Matt's showing us that there's a lot of humanity in a place maybe people thought there wasn't.
Look, no matter what happens, regardless of what industry you're in, you think about automotive, or I think about automotive, and I was fortunate enough to get into this business at 24, right? What is a 24-year-old? It's a person who's trying to figure out their place in life. Maybe they got a family, maybe they don't. Maybe they graduated college and maybe they don't know what's next. So you've got these multiple people, at least in my environment. So you can go work at Best Buy and you can be molded into Best Buy. You can go work at TD Price and you can get molded into that. Or you can come into the auto business where you can learn how to take care of people. Not just your customers, but the people, right? You learn how to have a better relationship with your family because I gotta work with you. You know what, some of the things I'm gonna learn from you might, translate to how I talk to my kid or my wife. You learn how to talk about credit. You learn how to leverage your credit. You learn all of these things. So when people talk about the car business, it's a business. Sure, word, it's a business. We become different people in this business than people outside of this business. That's why I'm passionate about it. Kid went to college, car biz. Got a crib, car biz. People like me, car biz. Would I have had those things if it wasn't for this? So if I don't rep for it, if I don't try to make it better,
That's right.
no.
On that.
So yeah, so I'm about it. The people that I work for are genuinely about it, and so we're happy to be here, evangelizing and telling that story a little bit more.
Gee whiz.
See, now you know
Follow
Kyle.
that.
Like the first conversation was kind of like that. And I was like, no, you gotta be Matt. You gotta be Matt.
Absolutely.
Matt, you were part of the project. You were on site. You were in some of the dealerships. What are your hopes that the show is able to actually accomplish as we roll out more episodes and as it gets out there?
Who sold cars? Who has ever gotten in trouble for a small mistake at a dealership? Ask yourself if you would have gotten in that same amount of trouble if you had made that mistake working at Target. The customer would have been like, oh, people make mistakes, but because of our reputation, any mistake is magnified times like 50. It shouldn't be like that. Our wins should be celebrated, our humans should be celebrated, and that's what I want to see. I want to see the humanity of automotive space dunk on what people think that we were from the sins of our fathers 20, 50, 80 years ago. And when that happens, then people can walk up into dealerships and feel like, you know what? I'm about to spend 60 grand. I am elated. I am elated. So that's what I'm hoping to see this do, is to get in front of consumers and say, you know what? These are actually some real, honest people, loving their families, taking care of their kids, and they so happen to transact in automobiles.
That's right. I was talking to someone today. I was like, hey, I got a wife. I got 3 kids. I go to church, play at the playground, have a regular job. All of the things that is natural for anyone else. Yet, for some reason, not everybody. I think that there's a shift happening in culture at some level. But how many times over even just the last day and a half, I've had conversations with dealers and industry partners that are saying, man, we have to rewrite the story in the next few years, or the consumer, the Department of Justice, any of those places
We're gonna rewrite it
are going to
for
start
us.
rewriting it for us, right? And this is a project that I think, like when you heard about it, you were like, this could rewrite the story, right?
So my challenge is, you said something that I really appreciate. I think that we've learned the importance of a good story over the past couple of years, right? So I don't know these folks here, I know those folks up there, but I don't know these folks. But I'd be willing to bet the great majority are great people, right? So the story is already there. The basis, the foundation is already there. We're already supporting Little League. We're already sending people to vacation. We're already supporting. We're doing it. We're not telling the story, right? We're not letting people know that, hey, you know what? Actually, I am up in here as a community member. So as we talk about changing that story, I don't know how much there needs to be of a change. There needs to be an amplification of the story.
That's right.
And people need to see it and people need to hear it. Because I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna say it because it's love, it's been 20 years, so people in my family were like, you're gonna go do what? Right?
Yeah.
You're gonna go do what?
The laughs mean that you're not the only
I'm
one
not
who
the
has
only
that
one,
experience.
And it shouldn't be like that. It should be like, oh, you're gonna go do this? Tell me more.
Amazing. Tell me more.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, can we hear it from Matt Jones and TrueCar for making this story a reality? Thank you so much, Matt.
And I don't know that I necessarily loved who TrueCar was when I sold cars. And when the opportunity presented itself to get to TrueCar, I was like, word, I can do this, because I understand why people have so much animosity to this company, because I had it as well as a salesperson. It is the truth. It wasn't always an environment that allowed people to be profitable. It wasn't always a fun environment. But as I learned more about who TrueCar was now, I actually began to appreciate the company more and said, actually, this is something I can be down with. There is something valuable about the company. Now we just got to get you to figure out how to get past the hate. And that's what we've been doing for the past couple of years, realizing that the old business model isn't appropriate for now. And the people who work there are not the same people who are there now.